defenders, I think, it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on, Ian. People deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in each and every time. With that being said, as usual, to my long-term supporters, one love. If you're new here, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you've all smashed the like button, and make sure the creative juices are also flowing in relation to any comments you have. Leave a comment after the vid, comment during the live stream. And also, again, it's Brentford against Arsenal in the League Cup this evening. Again, I believe we kick off at 7:45, so join me on my channel at 6:45 p.m. UK time. Obviously, at the time of making this vid, it is 9:15 a.m. So yeah, big up you lot. News to me, you lot know I'm a big fan of Emile Smith-Rowe. I'm always rooting for him. He's one of our own. You know, I feel life is harsh and it's all about what you're doing now, not necessarily in the past. But, you know, I couldn't tell you the last time Smith-Rowe started or played real significant minutes for Arsenal Football Club after that great season where him and Saka were the poster boys. He got the number 10 and a new contract. Mikel Arteta has issued him a challenge. Now, we all know there's a lot of things to be positive about at Arsenal, but there's also concerns. I would say one big concern is I always say we're going to live or die by midfield. When everybody's fit, we've got some good options. Declan Rice, you know, he's got a back injury at the moment, but Declan Rice, Thomas Partey. Beyond that, I've been passionate. I believe even if everyone's fit, we could do with a central midfielder or two, you know, and obviously the Kai Havertz experiment isn't working. I would say Fabio Vieira is taking his chances, but I wouldn't say he's 100% convincing in that left 8 channel. So you've got Havertz, you've got Fabio Vieira. You would imagine, you know, Smith-Rowe will get an opportunity because while he can play on the left, he's not really a traditional winger. He's more finding the pockets, transition, you know, cute little turns and link up play and things like that. You'd imagine there's an opportunity for him in that 8 role at some point, people, but he is firmly behind these players in the pecking order. Obviously, I'd imagine Jorginho, not quite the same role, but he's ahead of Smith-Rowe where central mids are concerned. He's got to be patient, and from now at least until January, he's got to have to be patient. Mikel Arteta challenges Emile Smith-Rowe to prove why he deserves to break into Arsenal's first team as the out-of-favour star prepares for his first start of the season against Brentford. As you'd imagine, there's going to be mass rotation as much as we can. I think between Gabriel, Saliba, potentially Benjamin White, 2 of the 3 is going to have to play at centre half, or maybe all of them. 1 might start, 2 might start, or they might have to come off the bench. You'd imagine Cedric's going to have to play left back, Tomiyasu at right back, or even Tomiyasu left back, Cedric in a natural position of right back, Kirill left-sided centre back, and between Benjamin White, Saliba, maybe even Gabriel, someone occupies that space. Really a big test on Arsenal's depth. Now, what I would say, is this one of them? You know, Mikel Arteta is a good man manager. Is this one where he's trying to provoke something out of Smith-Rowe? He's trying to test his willpower. He's trying to test how much he really wants this, because it's not quite the same. But I remember reading a few months ago on Arsenal.com, Saliba, when he spoke about how he returned from his last loan spell, and he said Mikel Arteta didn't talk to him for a week. Is it a test of Smith-Rowe's character? Is he trying to provoke a reaction out of him? I don't know. Or is he just simply put out of favour in this system? Mikel Arteta has challenged him. Let me know what you lot think, by the way. Emile Smith-Rowe has been challenged by Mikel Arteta to prove he deserves to break into Arsenal starting 11. As we know, the 23-year-old is almost a forgotten figure at Arsenal, was linked with Chelsea during the summer. It didn't happen. He potentially is going to start either on the left-hand side or in midfield. Again, against Brentford. I think he's going to play in the channel purely because it's a chance to give El Nene, Jorginho, maybe a Kai Havertz or Fabio Vieira, a sort of, you know, a midfield 3 of that. Nelson probably goes off the right, even though he looks on the left. Arteta has said Saka's probably not going to be available. Declan Rice isn't going to be available. And a few others, really. Trossard as well, which, again, we hope all of these boys are back for Bournemouth away, and definitely Manchester City after that. Arteta said there have been many reasons why he hasn't started a match. He was out for a long time. Obviously, fitness, getting your way back into the groove of things, yeah. But I would have thought he had a good pre-season. He had a sort of mini pre-season with England's under-21s. Obviously, we all could see Kai Havertz was bought for big money. Declan Rice is there, Partey's there. Smith-Rowe was probably not going to play per se that much, even though we saw the great standard ovation against PSV. And I'm sure a lot of us Arsenal fans would have loved Mikel Arteta to keep Gabriel Jesus on against Spurs, but also to give Smith-Rowe maybe more minutes. So, you know, if I was Smith-Rowe, that's the first thing. Like, what are these reasons? Is it to do with my injury? Is it to do with the tactical fit? Is it a mental test? Who knows? But Arteta said many reasons. In the last 2 matches, he's played more minutes, and tomorrow, in brackets today, he'll have a big chance to show that he can play at this level and be a really important player for us. As we know, ultimately, you're going to have to take your chances. But if we're going to make rotation, if you haven't necessarily played, you're going to have an element of rustiness. And although I think he had a decent cameo against PSV, you did see a bit of rustiness because he's not in the groove of things, really and truly. There's no substitute for minutes. He needs time on the pitch and he needs opportunities, and we want to provide that to him. Then he needs to prove it like anybody else on the field that he deserves to play. And apparently, you know, when asked if he ever considered letting him leave, Mikel Arteta said no. He needs to be a big part of this team going forward. A player of that talent who has come through our system, that is what we want to do. Now he needs minutes and he needs to prove that he can do what he can do. Fair enough. And obviously, Arteta has confirmed Bukayo Saka isn't going to play a part. Arsenal will decide what to do with Smith Rowe 1 month before the next January transfer window opens, says Fabrizio Romano. Interest was always there for Emile Smith Rowe this summer as he's a talent, but there was never any negotiation despite Chelsea links, and they've obviously signed Cole Palmer. Smash the like button, by the way, people. At the moment, he's not playing as much, but it's too early to say what this means. For January, we have to see what they decide in December, as now the message is very clear. Arteta is happy with the current squad and wants to focus on the next months with these players. Ultimately, he's got to prove why he's going to play, but ultimately, you want to play games. You're seeing a couple of people, your teammates in and around you. Benjamin White has been in the England squad. It's probably not footballing reasons as to why he hasn't been selected since, but you've got, in theory, Benjamin White, Aaron Ramsdale, Eddie Nketiah, Bukayo Saka, and Declan Rice, maybe even missing one out. They're all, you know, it's Euros at the end of the season, and he has been called up for England. Obviously, there's a lot of competition, but to have any chance, you've got to play games, really. So we'll see, not just with Smith Rowe, but several players. Arteta has provided updates on Declan Rice, Partey, Trossard, and Martinelli, people, for what it's worth. In relation to Bukayo Saka, I believe he has said, sorry, people, in Declan Rice, he hasn't trained yet. Obviously, he cannot carry on in the game, but hopefully it's not something big. We are confident he is still uncomfortable. He had to leave the pitch, which is never a good sign, but hopefully we progress in the next few days on that front. Moving on, he was limping in relation to Saka. He was limping quite badly after the match. We had to get him off the field. He hasn't been able to participate in training. It's a possibility he could miss Bournemouth. As we know, Martinelli sustained a hamstring knock against Everton, and he's on the sidelines. Trossard is also set to miss the game at Brentford. We hope they can all be involved. He won't be available when talking about Trossard. Let's see how he improves day by day. He did some activity and that's how we felt. And to be fair, we've probably got to bite the bullet, put a lot of kids on the bench, rotate the team. While I want to be competitive and go as far as we can in any competition Arsenal are at, we've got to think about Bournemouth and City with the greatest of respect to Brentford. So if they are ahead of schedule and they pass the fitness test and they're able to play some part of the game, great. But if we are to risk players, it has to be to try and recoup them 3 points against Bournemouth and get that insurance policy heading into the Manchester City game. Forgive me if I'm wrong. In fact, even next week, we've got the Champions League as well. So respectfully to the League Cup, because, you know, again, I know the League Cup isn't the greatest of things, but I do think as fans, you know, we get kind of hung up on fighting for Premier League, Champions League, FA Cups. We get a bit snooty. When you look at the amount of players in the Premier League or in world football, how many of them win trophies in their careers? It's not a given, really. And once you're in it to win it, and obviously we've got our eyes on bigger things, not that we can necessarily look past the League Cup because it can create a winning mentality. You look at Pep Guardiola, they were picking up 1-2 League Cups on top of everything they've done. Yeah, I want to win something, really. Who doesn't? I mean, we've technically won something already, English Super Cup. But yeah, it ain't good news. We all know Thomas Partey could be back for Manchester City, but to know that Partey, Saka, Rice, Trossard, Martinelli, I'm probably missing out one, a carrier Knox. It's not good news, really and truly. Arsenal and Chelsea prepared to offer players in deal for Ivan Toney. Brentford are open to selling Toney, but not at the reported 60 million price. Arsenal and Chelsea among interested clubs. As you know, Toney is due to be able to play football again properly in January. He is training with Brentford. Arsenal and Chelsea are continuing to weigh up respective moves for Brentford striker Ivan Toney in the January transfer window, with both sides open to offering players to the Bees in part exchange, sources have told 90 Minute. Toney finished as the third highest scorer in the Premier League last season, having found the net 20 times. Only Harry Kane with 30 and Haaland with 36 were ahead of him, people. Although he's still months away from taking to the pitch again, Toney's services are in demand. 90 Minute has reported in recent weeks that Arsenal and Chelsea are interested in the England international, while Thomas Frank admitted he could be sold if the price is right. However, sources close to Brentford have strongly refuted suggestions. They have set an asking price of 60 million on Toney. Though they have not declared a firm asking price, 90 Minute understands the Bees would likely ask for a fee in excess of 75 million. I don't know if we'll do that. Arsenal and Chelsea could yet choose to meet these demands. Those sources have told 90 Minute that both are willing to offer players and make weights in their proposals. However, it is currently unclear whether this would appeal to Brentford. And apparently Brentford have begun to look at strikers, maybe just in general, of bolstering their squad, maybe as a replacement. Moving on to Victor Osimhen, apparently he's increasingly distant from a new Napoli contract. We've all seen, and I've done a video on it, so check it out, in relation to the whole storm that's considering him. I don't really want to get into it, but for what it's worth, Victor Osimhen is now going increasingly distant from signing a new Napoli contract despite previous speculation. The 24-year-old's agent revealed yesterday that he could take legal action against Napoli for posting an objectable video about the striker, and this came after Osimhen had a verbal confrontation with manager Rudy Garcia when he was substituted in the game against Bologna. We've all seen the TikTok people. There was an approach from the Middle East. He didn't go, so we'll have to see really. But there's, because of what's happened, there's going to be, a doubt or a black cloud over whether he gets a new contract. Speculation is going to be fueled to leave and maybe go to the Premier League. He has been linked with Arsenal, and in the last 24 hours, aggressively linked with Chelsea for that matter. A few days ago, it was last month, it was said Arsenal held talks with Victor Osimhen over a move to Arsenal, and he's set to turn down a Napoli deal. Now, we've seen for the last few years, allegedly, we've held talks with his agents, people. So I don't know whether that's in relation to a January move or whatever. He did previously, a few years ago, say, I spoke with Arsene Wenger and he wanted me to come to Arsenal, but it was not the best option at the time. And considering how he's developed at Leo and Napoli, it could be the right time now. But as you know, Napoli spent big money on him. Obviously, their position's weakened with what's going on and not signing a new contract. And Napoli as a whole collective unit not quite firing, but, they spent a lot of money. Napoli are difficult to do business with. So we'll have to see. And ultimately, it's going to come down to the money. What sort of money? You're probably looking around 100 million to begin conversations. Ollie Watkins, again, I've covered this in a previous vid, but allegedly, Ollie Watkins' agent has held talks with Arsenal over a January move. So if we just not get hung up on names. In fact, let me know who you prefer out of Ollie Watkins, Osimhen, and potentially Toney. Maybe we're looking at bringing in a striker in January of a similar profile, one that can hold up the ball, one that's can do the modern day stuff, but is more of a traditional natural in front of goal and a bit clinical. Arteta confirms Arsenal's new status with Toney and Nketiah swap. Arsenal have been tipped with making a January swap deal with Brentford, with the Gunners seeking to sign Ivan Toney and prepared to send Eddie Nketiah in the opposite direction. I mean, if that can knock a bit of the price tag, Eddie Nketiah is doing all right. He's shown that he's a Premier League level striker to some degree. If that can knock some fees off the price, why not? I'd want Eddie to go on loan, just because if Eddie goes there and he gets on like a house on fire, he's still in his early 20s, more or less, really. He's at that age where he's coming into his own, but that's someone that could maybe be reintegrated into Arsenal, or someone that could be sold on for a profit. So we'll have to see. For Eddie and Nketiah, you'd probably get more game time, whether we get Osimhen, whether we get Toney, whoever we get, whether it's even one of them strikers that are not really a known entity, you'd imagine that would push Eddie and Nketiah down the pecking order. I know he wants to fight and things, and there has been patches where he's played week in, week out, and he has played significantly in the 5-6 games we played this season already. But you would imagine the way the team's going, unless Eddie Nketiah develops dramatically, he will find game time limited. And there might come a time where if he wants to continue to get into the England squad and do things like that, he might have to go somewhere where he's more of a first choice. Again, you have to, no shade, but I mean, football transfers, I wouldn't say they've got a real success rate when they've linked us with players. We've been linked with Tchouameni, Mbappe, and all these guys. Football transfer information is that Mikel Arteta is hesitant over a deal for Toney at that point in the season, given he has not played a competitive football game since the 1-0 defeat to Liverpool in early May, and will be short of match sharpness at a vital stage of the season. Nevertheless, sources have indicated that Brentford centre forward is a player the Gunners do have under consideration. So the Sun's report that Eddie Nketiah could be sent in the opposite direction is valid. It also shows that Arteta's Arsenal are now at a crossroads, whereas previous transfer windows have been about building the club for the future, the Gunners could cross into a very, very definitive phase of concentrating on the present. This began in the summer with the signing of Declan Rice, and I wouldn't quite extend that to Havertz, but yeah, people. And at 24 years of age, Eddie Nketiah is in a vital stage. Respectfully to Eddie, Toney's better than you. Jesus is ahead of you. I wouldn't be against having you in the squad because you can never have too many players past the point. So I have to watch that one lightly, people. In relation to Declan Rice, it could be positive. Arsenal will closely monitor Declan Rice's back injury to establish whether the problem is connected to other areas of his body moving forward. Club medics are prepared to take a closer inspection to ensure the back issue does not become a recurrent problem. And you know, I'm no doctor, but I know for a fact if you've got a bad back, you learn to live with it. It never gets better. So, you know, you got to remember Declan Rice is in his early 20s. As a footballer, he's firmly established, but he's a young man. He's a father. He's going to be a grandfather one day. I'm sure he's an uncle. And you just need your back to live, really, to get up and down. So you don't want to see any issues with that. Initial tests have provided Arsenal with confidence that Declan Rice will not be a long-term absentee, although the pain in Rice's back is understood to have worsened so much on Sunday night that it was restricting his movement, which isn't what you want to hear. Speaking of injuries, again, get well soon, Lokonga. The man can't buy any luck. Apparently, he'll be out of action for a couple of months, and he's confirmed that on his Instagram account, people, where, you know, he's finally getting some game time at Luton. It's a very big test mentally, really, because there's a Euros. I'm sure you want to get in with Belgium. You know, it's an understatement to say you're at a crossroads in your Arsenal career. It doesn't look like you have a future here unless something dramatic happens and you really look like the Yaya Toure that company once proclaimed you were the new one. So I have to see. But let me know your thoughts in relation to Eddie Nketiah and Ivan Toney potential swap deal. Where you at with Osimhen? You know, how do you feel about the injuries that's currently at the moment? Let me know how you're feeling in relation to the Brentford game. Do you want rotations? Do you want us to go strong? Just let me know everything. So yeah, do me a favor, subscribe if you haven't, smash the like button, leave a comment. Most importantly, I hope you and your loved ones stay blessed, stay safe, have a great week and a great day, morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on the time of you lot watching this video and where you lot are. Stay safe, stay blessed, one love.
There's always that active red light, defenders. I think it's like